Hi, so today we're going to start making some music. We've worked with words for a couple of sessions and we've looked at ways in which we can create our lyric, and today we're going to concentrate on the music making. So irrespective of whatever genre you're interested in, whether you're writing with a piano or a guitar or a violin or a clarinet or whatever, or you simply make tunes up in your head and sing them into your phone or whatever, somewhere down the line as you start to create your song, you're going to come across chords. And chords are used to give progression and to give interest and harmony to the songs that you're creating. And there are some pretty cool chord sequences out there. A lot of them are used over and over again. There are some classic chord sequences which you can very easily pick up. And I'm going to sort of start with the idea of mixing together the idea of major and minor chords and just look at how we can create progressions in that way, chord progressions in that way. So we'll start with the key of C, okay, the chord of C, and then our chord 4 for that will be an F. Our chord 5 for that will be a chord of G, and our chord 3 for that will be an E minor. Okay. Now those 4 chords will fit together quite neatly. So 1, 4, 5, 3. Yeah. Now they might not flow particularly well in that order, so let's try a different order. There we go. So that's 1, C, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you'll notice I'm using numbers rather than the chord names. That's a kind of transferable language. So depending on what key you're in, 1 will be your root note, your first note, your tonic, if you like. So you'll have a 1 is C in the key of C, the 4 is F, the 5 is G for obvious reasons, the 3 is the E minor. Yeah. So finding different ways of mixing the chords together is the fun bit. Okay, and we can make the chords fit in different ways. We can bring a chord 6 in, for example. So if we're in C, a chord 6 will be an A minor. So we might start again with our 1, then a 6, then a... And we've all heard that shape. That shape gets used over and over and over again. Most commonly in anything of that ilk. So finding our chord progression, just kind of play around with 1, okay, but use 4 rather than 3 or 2 because it will give you shape for later on. So let's say we're going to start with 1 again. And what happens if we use a 2? That's a D. Now weirdly a D can be in either a major or a minor, really. 1. It's quite nice, isn't it? Using that 2 in there. What happens if we change that 2 from D major to D minor? Okay, so it's always worth playing with mixtures of major and minor chords. It gives a nice shape to your feel, and you will find that a lot of songs these days particularly are pretty much a 4-chord trick throughout. So the songwriter will find a sequence that they like and they will use that sequence throughout, and the changes come through the arrangement. So the melody of the verse is obviously going to be different from the melody of the chorus, but the chords will stay the same. And that's how the song progresses, with a very kind of like consistent sequence of chords, and the changes come, the interest gets developed through the melody and also through the arrangement. Another way of using chords, or a single chord if you like, is to ornament it, is to play with the intervals within that chord in some way to create a tension or an interest or a movement, if you like. And none are more common than the use of the suspension. The idea of a fourth in the chord to create a little extra dynamic, if you like, in the notes. So with a D chord, simply adding the fourth, which in this case is the G, of the chord creates that interesting little change. Now that's all on a D chord. Yeah, just by using that extra note within the chord, you create a whole new feel, actually. It can be slightly more complex than that. You can go straight from the D, if you like, through the major seventh to the ordinary seventh, and that naturally leads to the G. Yeah. So you can play with the notes within the chords as well. And that can be its own passage. You can use that as your sequence. There's another little trap we sometimes fall into when we're working on chord progressions, and that is to somehow default to the idea of a chord every bar. And that doesn't have to be. It's fun to play with the idea of chords for different amounts of bars, different chords and different amounts of bars. So hanging on your chord 1, say for example, let's change key just for our ear's sake. So we're going to use A as our chord 1, so we're going to be playing in A for a bit. Let's start again. Yeah, so mix with the amount of time that you play with each chord, okay, and use that as part of the musicality of the progression that you're using. It can be really useful as well when you're thinking about melodies. It kind of kicks you into the idea of the melody hanging around for a bit, particularly if you've got a lot of words to fit in. A nice okay. When you're putting your song together, quite a cool thing to do is to reserve the idea of starting your bridge, or possibly a pre-chorus, on the chord 4. Okay, so for example, if we're working in A still, there's our 1. We've done that for a couple of times. That's our verse sequence. Now we go into our bridge, starting with the D, 4. Yeah, so it gives us an extra little momentum, gives us extra momentum into our bridge, and it also gives the bridge a nice, clean but smooth change. So by mixing the idea of major chords and minor chords together, playing with the length of time you stay on each chord, you can put together some quite cool sequences. So for example, using the 4th on the D, and a minor chord, and again, change it up. Little run. And so on. What I would suggest is that you jam around for yourself on whatever instrument, whether it's the guitar or the piano. And similar things apply to the piano, of course, but you'll find that different things fall under your fingers nicely. And just record it onto your phone. Just jam along to yourself, or maybe with a mate, and keep a record of it, and go back over it and go, yeah, that's cool, that bit. Let's see what happens if we put that together with something else we've made. Okay.